Hello YouTube, Sign here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing another manga review. This is going to be the last manga review that I can record and edit for the month. After that, we're going to have 4 different videos that are kind of like finalizing the month, also finalizing the first quarter of the year. So that'll be good. Today we're going to be looking at Saint Seiya, and I'm going to show you 4 volumes, but I'm not covering 4 volumes of the manga. I'm actually covering the first part of Sanctuary, which is the first saga in Saint Seiya. So Saint Seiya is divided into 3 major sagas. There's the Saga of Sanctuary, the Poseidon Saga, and the Hades Saga. The Hades Saga is like the most important one, but the Sanctuary Saga is the one that most people know about. And the Sanctuary Saga is divided into 3 sections. The first section is the section that deals with the Bronze Knights, mostly when they're fighting each other in 3 different arcs. And then the middle section is the Silver Knights section, which is only about 1 arc. And then the last section of Sanctuary is the Gold Knights section, which has like a few different arcs as well. I can't remember exactly, but like that's the one where they're running through like all of the houses. So that's the one that a lot of people know. But today we're going to be only dealing with the first 19 chapters, the chapters that deal with the Bronze Knights fighting each other. There's 3 or 4 arcs in this one. I can't remember exactly. I'll tell you more clearly in a minute. But that's what we're talking about. So the author of Saint Seiya is Masami Kurumada, and he is a kind of classic mangaka. He's pretty old right now. He's still writing more Saint Seiya stuff, but he's, you know, he was a contemporary of Boron-san and Akira Toriyama and what's it called, JoJo's guy? I can't remember his name, but yeah, Saint Seiya is a contemporary in Shonen Jump of Fist of the North Star and Dragon Ball, so that's pretty cool. This is published by Panini Manga Mexico. These are not in English, these are in Spanish, and as you guys can see right there, here's what the covers look like. There you go. These alternate colors. There's 5 major characters in the story. The first one is Saint Seiya, which is the red, and then the second one is Shun, who happens to be the dragon right there, and then the next one's going to be Yoga, which is the 2 blue books, and then there's sorry, this isn't Shun. This is Shiryu, the dragon guy. And then there's Shun, who's the pink character. He is wearing the Andromeda armor. And then the last one should be dark red or dark blue. I actually can't remember, but that's supposed to be Iki of Phoenix. So there's 5 different colors, and they alternate. And then the last 2 books in the series, 21 and 22, are golden, if I remember correctly. So that's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool. There you go. That's what those look like there. And like I said, these are first. These are 4 volumes. These are content mod editions, so they don't have like a standard number of chapters like you would normally think. And these actually go into the Silver Knight saga, but they don't actually finish it, or the Silver Knight arc, but they don't actually finish it. So that's why I'm only going to be talking about the Bronze Knight section here. So yeah, the demographic is shonen. Obviously, it was a Shonen Jump title. The genres here are action, fantasy, martial arts, and mythology. So similar to Record of Ragnarok, more or less. And this does have an anime adaptation. It actually has a few. It has the original Japanese one that got popular in France and Latin America back in the day in the 80s, and then had a resurgence in the 2000s. And then there's a few other versions. There's the Netflix version that was recently developed. I'm pretty sure that got canceled because not that many people cared about it. I think it was okay, but because I didn't really watch it. But I know that they changed one of the male characters that was actually a really good example of like what this story was about into a girl. And so they made all of his like aspects in the story irrelevant by turning him into a girl. So I didn't like that. I didn't watch it though, so I'm not exactly sure if it still hits the same, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't, because one of these characters was relatively important to, like the fact that he was male and the way he acted was really important to who he was as a character. And yeah, the premise is basically that there's this guy, his name is Seiya, and he has become a saint, which is a warrior against evil that works for the goddess Athena, who is the goddess that protects the world and humans from evil. And now he's been called to compete in these things called the Galaxian Wars, which is a tournament in order to find out who's going to be the next gold knight, the guy that's going to wear the gold Sagittarius armor. And as they're fighting through this tournament, it gets stopped because the last challenger appears and chaos ensues. And that's basically what the start of this section, or the premise of this section, is about. This is kind of the three major kind of arcs that happen in this story. And then it turns into a much broader, fight against evil later on, right? So, yeah, let me show you what these books look like a little bit more closely, and then we'll actually get to the plotline section. So feel free to skip this section if you've already seen them, or if you've seen my previous first impressions review where I showed them to you. So, yeah, so here's the first book. And this first book comes with this bookmark, which matches the image and also matches the title card. And then these, because they're Mexican editions, they come with a paper dust jacket for the paperback edition. These are all red. They should have, I really think they should have changed colors depending on the different cover colors, but they didn't. Probably because it's not really feasible to be like, hey, we need you to change the printing color every time that you do this. So it also comes with these colored banners that you can pull out. Let me see if I can do this like that. And then it also has like red tinted illustrations inside because it's a Kanzenban. It's like, if you guys have read the Fist of the North Star editions that they have in English, it's kind of like that kind of style, or the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure editions as well. It's kind of that. And there's also some actual color pages scattered throughout the story, as you guys can see right there. But they're pretty simplistic. They're not really like the ones that you would think now. And of course, there's also these diagrams of the different armors here at the end of the book that are also in color. So there you go. That's Shiryu of Dragon and Pegasus Saint Seiya, or Seiya of Pegasus, or Pegasus Seiya. I've only ever heard it as like character name of the armor because I watched it in Spanish. So I think in English it's actually armor and then character. So it should be Pegasus Seiya, but I call him Seiya of Pegasus. Here's book 2. Here's what it looks like. The back of the books has a slight little image there, which is kind of weird. But not all of them have the banners, as you guys can see right there. These are proper, just normal color pages. And they have like plastic on them. Here's 3. There you go. So as you guys can see, each of these has a character, and then the second volume that has their same color has an image of the whole team. So that's pretty cool. There you go. These are the 4 main characters, but I mean, there's a 5th one, and I guess he kind of isn't really that big of a main character, but I think he's probably one of the more important ones, but I don't know, it's whatever. Okay, so that's all of the books there, and the special thing that comes with them. So yeah, those are anniversary editions. Saint Seiya, Kanzenban. Mexico loves Saint Seiya, so that's why they made those. And they have all of the other spin-offs in Mexico as well, so that's pretty cool. Now let's get into the proper review here. It's already been 10 minutes and I haven't talked shit about the book, so let's get into it. Like I said, the first part of Sanctuary has kind of 3 or 4 arcs. It has the first part, which is where Seiya becomes a saint. He is studying martial arts at the Sanctuary. He is not only learning to fight, but also how to explode his Cosmo, which is this inner energy that all humans have that are related to the star they're born under, and only certain special people can make this Cosmo explode and become superhuman through the usage of this energy. It's basically chi, so there you go, that's what it is. And he is at Sanctuary, and he's actually battling this other character who's fighting him for the right to bear the armor of Pegasus, or the Pegasus armor, right? His name is Cassius, and Seiya has been trained by Marine, Eagle Marine, and Cassius, who was a native Greek man, and Seiya is of course Japanese, was trained by Ophiuchus Shaina, who was the only 2 female knights that we saw in the original story, but of course this changed in Seiya show. And they're trained and they're fighting, and then Seiya eventually wins and becomes Pegasus Seiya, and now he travels back to Japan, where he goes to talk to Saori, Kaido, I think is her last name, who was the daughter of the guy that raised them, because he was an orphan, who then sent them off to find these armors. And then he's like, hey, I need you to help me find my sister. That's the only reason why I went on this stupid, trip to become the saint of this armor. And it turns out that that's no longer possible because her grandfather died, and because Seiya still has responsibilities that he has to go through. She basically tells him, join the Galaxian Wars, this tournament that I'm putting on, where all the Bronze Knights are going to fight each other, win the golden armor by winning, and then I'll let you use the resources of our foundation, the Grad Foundation, to find your sister. And so he does, basically against his will, and battles ensue. Seiya faces against Jabu, and then he faces against Geki, and then he fights Shiryu near the end. And that fight is probably the best one in the whole Galaxian Wars segment of the story. It's so raw and crazy and insane. My man Seiya punches Shiryu so hard that he stops his heart and he's about to die. And the only way to fix it is to get him to punch Shiryu again with the exact same force in the exact same spot. But it's impossible because Seiya is basically been also mollywopped, and so he can't see properly. And it's kind of insane, but they managed to do it because, of course, you can't have one of the main characters die so early in the tournament. And eventually the Galaxian Wars continue to happen, and what happens is that Iki of Phoenix shows up and actually causes some chaos because he takes the Sagittarius armor before anyone can actually win it, and now everyone has to gather their forces and go against him. But the problem is that only 4 characters are able to do so because they're either the strongest or they're the only ones that still have armor that works, because they managed to beat everyone else. I can't remember exactly. Seiya and Shiryu don't actually have armor, but they're still standing, which is important. And Shiryu has to go away to visit his master who's dying in the mountains of China or Tibet or something like that. And in order to get his and Seiya's armor fixed. And then Andromeda, Shun, and Cygnus Hyoga need to basically set up everything so that they can go find Iki of Phoenix and these pieces of armor that he stole. And they basically have to fight these Shadow Knights, these evil versions of themselves called the Black Knights. And that's basically what this section of the story is. It's the reunion of the 5 characters that are going to be central to the story. And overall, it's really, really good. There's a lot of good fighting. Mostly this is a fighting manga first and foremost. It eventually develops into more stuff like that is more important. But generally, this first section is just martial arts with special magical armor. And that's basically what it is. And it's really good. And there's some really great fights. There's a lot of good emotional stuff. And most of the time, most of the story in this first 19 chapters is more about exposition for the characters. Through each fight, we get to learn about the characters. Of course, we learned that Hyoga is, this type of person, and that Seiya is this other type of person and stuff like this. And this is all mostly set up, but in order to not make it boring, they do it during a tournament arc. It's very similar to how Record of Ragnarok actually does their background storytelling for the character that you're seeing fight, where during the fight they go into flashbacks to explain the stuff that's happening to them. So that's pretty cool. It's actually really well done. I'm guessing Record of Ragnarok did this because they saw Saint Seiya wanted to kind of emulate that, because if I remember correctly, Adam uses an attack that's basically the exact same as Seiya's Pegasus Punch or whatever, Comet Punch, which I thought was pretty fun. But yeah, the plot line is great. It's a lot of good battles, and there are some down moments in the story between the characters where they just talk, but mostly it is, hey, we're fighting, right? And I do have to admit that this first part of the Galaxian Wars was a little bit boring to me, but it's not because it's bad. Although maybe you think that, but it's not because it's bad. It's because I've already seen and experienced this part of the story so many times, at least 10 times. So I already know what's happening. So it was these first 2 volumes of the story, these first 2 Kanzenma editions, I was just kind of pushing through. But then 3 and 4 were a lot better because there was stuff that I haven't seen as much. because usually I like watch the Galaxian Wars and then I just kind of stop watching Saint Seiya because I get distracted by other things, right? So overall, the plot line is great, like I said. Now let's look at characters. There's Seiya and Marin, who are the first characters introduced. Seiya and Marin have this kind of interesting relationship. She's technically his master because she's the one that taught him to fight, and so he uses techniques that he learned from her, but also in a very kind of standard theory that's been going around for the last 30 or something years. She's also his sister, probably, but we don't know, but we don't know that it's not true. So, you know, there's reasons why they're friendly and close to each other. And then we get introduced to the rest of the Bronze Knights. You know, there's Unicorn Jabu, Bear Geki, Wolf Nari, Snake Ichi. There's like a few others as well, but I can't remember their names. But of course, the important ones are Saint Seiya, Cygnus Yoga, Andromeda Shun, Dragon Shiryu, and of course Phoenix Ikki. So these are the 5 important characters that become relevant to the rest of the story. Hyoga is a half Russian guy. His powers are basically ice powers, and he has this very pretty looking silver armor, and he has this very kind of interesting connection with his mother that died, and she died in this very frozen area of the world. And so he trained in ice magic because he was like, I need to go visit my mother because I can't like part with her just yet. And so he would like train in these cold environments and develop like ice magic. And then there's Shun, who is, I think, the most important character of the story, because the story is like a way to explore like manhood and, you know, like positive masculinity and these types of things. And Shun is a very important aspect of this because he is like the most emotional, the most like feminine of the 5 characters that embody masculinity, right? Like Seiya and Hyoga and Shiryu and Ikki are much more like normal, like traditionally masculine, stoic type characters generally, but Shun is not. And Shun has a lot of development and a lot of interesting aspects to him because he's different from these 4 other guys that actually help us learn a lot about positive masculinity through him. But then he got turned into a girl, and all of this stuff went away in the Netflix version. But I haven't seen it, so you know I don't really want to say too much negative stuff about it because I don't know if it's like actually bad. But I think that the idea was that like Shun is like the most important male character out of these 5 because he's the one that's showing you the most like positive masculinity. But you turn him into a girl, therefore defeating the purpose of his character, right? Seiya is the kind of brash, kind-hearted shonen protagonist. Hyoga is the more cold, kind of like distant type shonen guy. Shun, of course, is the more like in tune with his emotions type. Shiryu is the calculating, stoic type, and of course, Ikki is left over as the angry masculine type. And these 5 actually balance out really well into this kind of like well-balanced man figure. And that's basically what Masami Kurumada was trying to do here. This is like the goal of his story. He was trying to explore this stuff. And some of it comes off kind of bad nowadays, but I think that it's still pretty good. And they all work for Athena, and Athena is their patron's goddess, but also like their boss, and also like a love interest, question mark, at least to Seiya, because there's this kind of like broader lore of the Pegasus Knight and Athena. But, you know, it doesn't get into that in this kind of volume there. But the characters are all quite good. Ikki happens to be the villain for most of the story, but or for most of the 4 volumes that I'm talking about. But he is not the villain always, so there you go. They all have very interesting kind of different styles to them. So the characters are actually quite well balanced and very good. In terms of world building here, we have 88 saints, plus all of the different saints for other people that we don't know about yet, plus the Saintias, which are not in this story because they weren't created at the point in time, but of course they are relevant in the new Saintia show series. And then they're warriors of justice and good, and they're supposed to basically protect the world, but of course they are normal humans, and so they happen to fall into avarice and hate and greed and all of this stuff just like everyone else. But technically speaking, their armors should stop working if they ever stop using them for the good of society. I have never actually seen this happen in the story, and so I guess that it has to be dependent on their personal outlook. Like, if they are doing something because they think it's good, the armor will stay with them, but if they're doing something that they know is wrong, the armor will stop working for them. So I've never seen this, and I know that this is a thing because Saint Seiya mentions it at one point, but I've never actually seen an armor stop working for any of the knights. But yeah, they join Athena when evil rises in the world. So Athena basically calls them to exist, and she doesn't necessarily do it, but she guides people to create the knights by training children into warriors that then she will lead, right? So all of these people are basically child soldiers. I think the oldest knight is like 25, maybe. But all of the bronze knights are like 14, 15. So there you go. That's cool. And each armor is powered by a constellation. It's made of this thing called orichalcum and gamanium. And these are special, star materials that take the constellation, refract the power of this constellation, and then react to the cosmos exploding from the user. And so that's kind of how they work there. And of course, Cosmo is this burning energy that exists within people that have been blessed by the stars, that they can burn or explode in order to use powerful attacks. And these kind of manifest as different magical abilities, depending on the armor they're wearing, plus the training that they received. In Saint Seiya, they become very fast and powerful punches. In Shiryu, they become this kind of special defense, but also this this wave energy dragon thing. In Shun, it lets him control his his chains, and Iki, they literally become flames. And with Yoga, of course, it's ice magic, and that's really cool. There's a lot of other types of magic that occur, but it's very kind of dependent on the person. Not everyone has the same attack type, so that's cool. In terms of art, it's definitely old. So if you don't tolerate that type of stuff, you probably won't like it, because it is very, very classic, very ancient looking compared to a lot of the stuff that is now. But I don't think it's bad. I think it takes a little bit to get used to it, but it is very kind of Go Nagai-esque. So that's pretty cool. I like it personally. I think that once you get used to it, it's really, really good. And there are some moments where, even if it doesn't look the best, it's still enjoyable to look at. Like, there you go. That's Seiya tracing the pattern of the Pegasus star constellation before he starts to power up his punch, which is called Pegasus Ryuseiken, which is the Pegasus Comet, or Pegasus Meteor. And there's some really awesome parts here where the kind of spirit of the animal that their their armor kind of manifests as shows up, and you have these very beautiful kind of crazy animal depictions that are actually really, really good. So I don't know why Kuramada dominates the animals, but he can't really make human looking characters that well. So I don't know, but it's very cool. The artwork is quite good once you get used to it, but it is kind of odd to look at from a modern perspective. There really isn't anything that looks like that anymore. But I think it's good. It really depends on your preference. This is definitely an oldie but goodie, and sometimes it's a really wowing kind of artwork, but usually it's not really the case. It's usually kind of middle of the road, right? So yeah, there's no fan service. I mean, I guess you could count Marion and China in the first volume being kind of fan servicey, because they have these very short leotard type outfits, and they have these boob armor things, but I mean, not really. I don't really consider that fan service. And of course, Saori is supposed to be this goddess, so she is always chaste and well-mannered, so it's not like it's ever going to be an ecchi kind of situation with her. So there's no fan service in that sense, but of course there's always very hot, attractive dudes that are kind of semi-naked, so that's kind of cool if you're into that. And of course, these characters were actually some of the characters that were in the original BL type comic books back when Clamp was drawing them. And Clamp actually, like the people that made RG Veda and Chobits and stuff like that, they started as a group that drew BL Saint Seiya Dojin. So that's cool. That's really interesting there. And yeah, overall, that's it for that. In terms of rating, this is a 4 out of 5. It's classic and it's one of a favorite of mine. But I don't think that this aspect of the story is really the best part of the story. In my opinion, some of the best part is probably the Gold Saints section of the story. And of course, later, the Poseidon and Hades things will be much better than that as well. But 4 out of 5, it's really good. I definitely recommend that you guys check it out. Check out the anime if you want to, not have to waste that much money. But hopefully one day in the future here, in the near future, Viz puts out English versions of these Kanzenban editions. But, I wouldn't bet my life on it because Saint Seiya is just not popular here in the US. So, yeah, I definitely recommend it, like I said. And in terms of similar titles, if you can think of a fighting series that happens to have mythology, that's basically what this is. So, Record of Ragnarok, which is the only one I can think of, is more or less going to be similar to this. You could argue that JoJo's and Dragon Ball and Fist of the North Star are similar, but I think the artwork in those is a lot better and also holds up a lot more for modern audiences than Saint Seiya. So, there is that. And that's basically all I have to say for this review. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And thank you guys very much for checking out. Let me know what you guys think about Saint Seiya. Let me know if you guys are interested in the story at all, or if it's just a thing that is bygone at this point that no one really cares about, at least here in the US. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.